Matthew Kelly was born in Sydney, Australia, where he began speaking and writing in 1993. Since that time, he has traveled in more than 50 countries and spoken to over 4 million people. He has written 12 books which have appeared on the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today bestseller lists, and have been published in 25 languages. His titles include The Rhythm of Life, The 7 Levels of Intimacy, The Dream Manager, Building Better Families, and his latest children's book, Why Am I Here? In addition to his efforts to help individuals become the best version of themselves, Kelly is also a partner at Floyd Consulting, a Chicago-based management consulting firm. His clients include Pepsi, Procter & Gamble, the Department of Defense, McDonald's, U.S. Bank, 3M, Ernst & Young, HSBC, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force, and more than 35 other Fortune 500 companies. His core message, regardless of whether he is speaking in a business, a school, or at a church, invites listeners to become the best version of themselves. Kelly convincingly communicates this message as God's desire for each of us, and he insists that it is also the desire of parents for their children, husbands and wives for each other, CEOs for their companies and employees, pastors for their communities and members, and managers for those they lead and instruct. To learn more about his work or purchase copies of his books, please visit MatthewKelly.org. And now, here's Matthew Kelly.
Thank you. Good to be with you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you all? Yeah, we'll see. It's great to be here with you this morning. There's a lot happening in the world, and I think what we're experiencing around us at the moment is the great danger that we encounter all the time, and that is that people get caught up in their own little worlds. And the reason it's important for you to come to something like this is because from time to time, it's critically important that we step back from who we are and where we are and what we're doing and take another look at who we are and where we are and what we're doing. Because if we don't do that, we do get caught up in our own little worlds, and it's a really dangerous place to be. The reason it's a dangerous place to be is because the way we see the world determines the way we live our lives. When you see someone living their life in a certain way, it's because they have a particular worldview. The way we see the world determines the way we live our lives, and most of us never really sit down and think about what is our worldview. How do you see the world? I mean, there's almost 7 billion people on the planet, and if we reduce the world's population to 100 people, proportionally, 57 of those 100 people would come from Asia, 21 from Europe, 14 from North and South America, and 8 from Africa. 51 would be women, 49 would be men, 68 of those 100 people would not be able to read and write. How do you see the world? 68% of the world's population still can't read and write. 6 of those 100 people would own and control almost 50% of the world's wealth. 5 of those 6 people would be U.S. citizens. 3 of those 5 people would live on the same street at the North Shore of Long Island. How do you see the world? Because the way we see the world determines the way we live our lives. One of those 100 people would have just been born. One of those 100 people would be just about to die. And only one of those 100 people would have been to college. How do you see that? Maybe in your world, everyone goes to college. But on planet Earth, 1 in 100 people have a college experience. 1/3 of the world's population dying from lack of bread. 1/3 of the world's population dying from lack of justice. And 1/3 of the world's population dying from overeating. How was breakfast? How do you see the world? Because the way we see the world determines the way we live our lives. And every time we encounter God in any genuine way, we're reminded of 2 simple realities. People were made to be loved, and things were made to be used. But too often we love things and we use people. And every time we encounter God, we're challenged to put things back in order, challenged to put things back in perspective, challenged to make things right, to put things as they really should be. What are we called to do as Christians? It's to challenge people's worldview. The first Christians challenged people's worldview. The first Christians challenged people's view of themselves, challenged people's view of the world, challenged people's view of God. That's what we're called to do. And how did they primarily do it? With their life. They lived differently. They loved differently. They worked differently. And they were intriguing. People were intrigued by the lives of the first Christians. People were fascinated with them. And so my question for you today is, who does your life intrigue? Who's intrigued by your life? Who looks at you and says, he's different or she's different?